Hi, welcome back to Frank's Vinyl Review. Today we're going to be reviewing a hip-hop album that was released back in the spring of 1991. And specifically, we're going to be reviewing this hip-hop classic, De La Soul is Dead. This is one of my favorite hip-hop records. And I recently acquired this promo version, which is a 2 LP version. Very excited to review this with you guys. So we're going to talk a little bit about the history of the record and go right into the track listing. As you can tell, the promo version is different from the promo sleeve is a lot different from the regular sleeve. There's no cracked flower pot. I do have a recent reissue. This one was released in April of 2023 after De La Soul reacquired their rights from Tommy Boy, and this is what the original cover looks like. I don't have an OG original, but this is the 2023 reissue, just to give you some reference in terms of what the original color looks like. I had this album back on cassette when it first came out. I was a huge De La Soul fan going back to their first album, 3 Feet High and Rising. So when this album came out, I was very excited. So I want to talk a little bit about this official version of the promo. I ran into some trouble when trying to acquire this record because I didn't realize initially that there was an official and an unofficial version. So if you're out there, even if it's not De La Soul, if it's another record, definitely check Discogs just in case you're not buying a bootleg. I didn't actually end up buying a bootleg, but it took me a little while to figure out that there was a big difference. Some of the official bootlegs look so real and they're marketed in such a way that you may end up buying an unofficial version, not realizing that it's unofficial. So the things to look for specifically, if it's an official version, you'll see a gold stamp. I have version number 470, and apparently there were only 2,000 of these official promo versions pressed. So I have number 470 out of 2,000. You can see that gold stamp there. And then the other thing you want to look for on the back of the sleeve, there's a very small print that says printed in Canada. So the sleeve was printed in Canada. So those two identifiers on the sleeve will guarantee that you have an official version. And then just to reinforce, any sort of detective work, making sure that you have an official versus an unofficial. The official runouts on the promo, you'll see TB 1041-A and capital letters DMM, and then SP for special press 1-1, and then on side A specifically, you'll see Hit Factory and then Coin, and this is all handwritten, etched out on the matrix runout, and then on the unofficial version, all you're going to see on the runouts is TB 1041A, TB 1041B, etc. for each corresponding side. So the official runout has a longer matrix runout. So again, that's something you want to double check. So the combination of those three factors, again, the gold stamp and the made in Canada, and then the runouts. So let's jump right into the track listing, guys. Like I said, I've always been a big fan of this record. It's definitely a classic. And the promo version doesn't have the skits. The regular version, especially the 2023, does include all the skits. So it's kind of interesting. But the original promo version does not have the skits. But it does have, interestingly, it does contain 2 tracks that are not on. So the official OG version of this record with the skits, it is missing My Brother's a Basshead, and it's also missing Afro Connection at High Five. So even though the promo doesn't have skits, it does contain all the tracks. So it's kind of a mix and match there. But let's start right in. So the album opens with Oodles of O's, great strong opener there. The next track is called Talking About Hey Love, and I really enjoy this track. It's actually not, there isn't a lot of rhyming. It's more of an instrumental with spoken word between Poss and his girlfriend. But I've always loved this track, and there's a sample by Stevie Wonder, his classic Hey Love. So I've always enjoyed that. The next track, Peas Porridge. You know, it's a pretty good track. Nothing really stands out for me. And then the last track on side A is called A Roller Skating Jam Named Saturdays. And I've always enjoyed that track. There was a video on MTV as well. It's just a great track, and I think there's different samples. There's a Grease soundtrack sample and some Bee Gees. There's a Bee Gees sample in there as well. Moving on to side B. That side opens with Biddies in the BK Lounge. And again, this is one of my favorite tracks. You know, I've read some reviews online where, you know, different critics and reviewers thought that track was kind of a throwaway. I actually enjoyed it. You know, there's 3 sections, and I guess it's based on a true story where Dave Trugoy, who sadly passed away in February of 2023, just a few months before the release of their entire catalog. Unfortunately, he knew that was coming, but wasn't able to make it to see that. So rest in peace, Trugoy. But Biddies in the BK Lounge is based on a true story. I guess Dave and a friend of his went to Burger King, BK standing for Burger King, and, you know, got horrible service. And then, you know, the server realized who Dave was. And, you know, so that's sort of the backstory behind the track. I really like the track because it does include a sample by Lou Donaldson. And that sample is It's Your Thing. And that's off the Hot Dog album. So if you want to check that out, Lou Donaldson, It's Your Thing. It's a really cool vamp, like an organ vamp. And so when Posdnuos, he starts getting into sort of a duel with this fictitious BK person, Shoshana. It's a really cool back and forth, one of my favorite tracks on the album. And that Lou Donaldson sample really hits home on that track. The next track is called My Brother's a Basshead. And again, this one was left off the original single disc, the single LP version. Pretty cool track. And you know, it was a true to life story. I guess Posdnuos, his brother, really was a crackhead, a basshead, if you will. So this album does feature more sort of real life scenarios. Again, De La Soul was essentially trying to get out of that hippie stereotype that Tommy Boy had used so successfully in marketing their original album. But this album definitely has darker themes and more real life themes, if you will. The next track is called Let Me In. Another great track. I don't really know much about the sampling and stuff, but I really enjoy that track. And then the last track on side B here on the promo is called Afro Connection at High Five. Just another standout track. And this one again was left off the OG. So there are 2 tracks there that you will not see on the OG single disc. The My Brother's a Basshead and Afro Connection at High Five, but they are included on this promo, which is great. Moving on to side C. First song is called Millie Pulled a Pistol on Santa. And again, this one is sort of a darker theme again. Essentially a song about Millie who, and I'm pretty sure this is based on a true story, friends or relatives of the band. Essentially, it's a song about Millie and her dad who you know, he's in the community and dresses up as Santa Claus for the holidays, etc. But he was sexually abusing Millie. So it's a song about incest, and so kind of an interesting track there. Obviously, kind of dark and a taboo subject, but you know, De La Soul, you know, they weren't afraid to rap about stuff like that, and really a testament to their artistry, if you will. The next track is called Pass the Plugs. Almost, you know, sort of a pun on Pass the Peas, but just kind of an interesting track. And then the last track on side C, Ring, Ring, Ring. And I kind of enjoyed this one. Some of the samples were from messages that people had left on, and I forget whose voice recorder it was, but they lifted messages, real messages. You know, De La Soul blew up after 3 Feet High and Rising, so a lot of people were reaching out to them and wanting to, you know, sort of take advantage, you know, jump on the bandwagon, if you will. So a lot of the messages reflect that. And then the last side D, the first song is called Swingja Lakot, and it's a difficult one to pronounce, but it's kind of a cool song. And the second to the last song on side D is Fanatic of the B Word. And again, this is one of my favorite tracks. just because it has such a bombastic beat. Maybe not bombastic, but just really, really slamming hard. And the sample on that one is a song by Lee Dorsey, and that's called Get Out of My Life Woman. And so again, I recommend listening to that on YouTube or stream it on your favorite streaming app. But you'll hear the opening drums on that track by Lee Dorsey, Get Out of My Life Woman. And that's been sampled by so many different hip hop artists. It's just such a great beat. And then the last track on this De La Soul is Dead promo is Keeping the Faith. You know, another interesting track. Nothing really stands out about it to me in particular, but so yeah, that wraps it up in terms of the track listing. Just a really solid piece of music here, and you know, I can listen to it over and over. I really enjoyed, you know, after getting this copy in the mail within the past week, early last week, you know, I listened to it a couple times, and it's just such a great pressing. Again, no skits here, but you know, if you know the album inside and out like I do, you know what the skits are all about. Just a couple quick notes though on the album. It was released May 13th, 1991, and again, I had the cassette version. Back then, it was all cassettes. I mean, CDs were coming out, but a lot of my hip hop collection was 100% cassette. I think I had one Public Enemy single at that time, but it was mostly cassette. And then the reissue here that I mentioned earlier, this one was released on April 7th of 2023, alongside most of their discography. And I think some of the older albums got released later on, a month or two later. But essentially, I mean, that was such a heady day, April 7th, 2023. I think people were calling it De La Soul Day online, just because so many, you know, their first 2 or 3 or 4 albums were repressed, released that day. So it was definitely a fun day for De La Soul fans, including myself. And again, just to kind of reinforce that we did lose Trugoy Dave back on February 12th of 2023. So just literally 2 months before they were able to sort of, you know, capitalize on their catalog, because they had been sort of manipulated and screwed over by Tommy Boy Records for so long, for years. I mean, 32 years, right? So it was nice to see them to get some of those, to get back their royalties, and now moving forward, they get to, you know, I'm sure they get to keep most of the money. So, you know, kudos to De La Soul for navigating through that and not giving up, right? I mean, it's tough. I can't even imagine what they went through. But again, just wanted to share this record with you. Again, this is the De La Soul is Dead, the promo press, one of the jewels in my hip hop collection. Again, you see that gold stamp there. So if you're out there looking on eBay or Discogs and you know, want a copy of this, and I do know a lot of people are still looking for this based on the want list that I've seen, you know, just make sure you're looking for, you know, again, that gold stamp, the runouts that I mentioned, and that Made in Canada sign on the back here on the lower sleeve, and the runouts. Make sure you've got the right runouts. So yeah, you really can't go wrong with this press. I mean, it's pretty nondescript in terms of the black sleeve, and you know, just sort of adds to the uniqueness. But you won't be disappointed. Special press here in my collection. Well, that's it, guys, for this week. You know, I wanted to keep it kind of short, but I wanted to touch base on that De La Soul record. And if you have a favorite track on the album, or if you want to say anything about De La Soul, please leave a comment. And also like and subscribe. I know that helps push the algorithm out there. So if you want to help Frank's Vinyl Review, that would be great as well. All right, guys. Well, that wraps it up for this week, and look forward to talking with you guys next time. And let me know in the comments as well if there are particular genres you'd like to see. I know when I look at my own, when I look at the playlist, etc. Obviously, the Jimi Hendrix videos have done well, but I listen to all kinds of music. So if there are specific albums or genres you'd like me to review, you know, I'm open to suggestions. I'm here for you guys, so feel free to leave one. Okay, that wraps it up, guys. Thank you so much, and have a great rest of your day. Okay, peace out. Thanks. Bye.